Hello, everyone. Can you give a wave or thumbs up if you can hear? Okay. Were you hearing music? Okay, yeah, I wasn't either, so I don't know what happens. Okay. Welcome. My name's Jason. If we don't know each other already, I'm a Romemu Yeshiva alum, and I'll be assisting in leading the sit today. And I say assisting intentionally because I don't think it's me or us that are really doing most of our life, but we are can try to align with it. So I thought today I would share a practice that those of you who have been around in Jewish renewal for a while will be familiar with at least some permutation of this practice. In the early days, Reb Zalman, may his memory be for a blessing, was excited to find a practice in the text of Joseph Gicatilla, a Spanish Kabbalist in the 12 and 1300s, a student of Abulafia. And this was at a time when Reb Zalman was very, the early days of exploration, where he was encountering a lot of other spiritual practices, including pranayama, breathing practice from the Indian tradition. And there was a practice he found in Gicatilla where he talks about the Yod-He Vav-He name of God as the four parts of the breath. And so I thought I would give this as a suggestion as guidance today. If you want to do your own practice, please feel free to go ahead and begin that, but I'll offer this for us to do together. The Parsha is also, we just are in this Vayakhel, like this, the Kahal, the gathering or the assembly, right? Like we're gathering. So we're gathering together to do this. So I'll a little bit describe it first, and then we'll go into slowing it down and we can practice with it. So roughly speaking, we can break the breath into four main parts. The two that are perhaps most obvious is the experience of actually inhaling, filling the lungs, expanding the lungs, and the experience which seems like it's opposite of exhaling, pushing out the air, expiring. And there's two other parts to the breath though, right? And they're the gaps at each end. And so when we exhale completely and empty the lungs, if you retain the breath or you hold for a moment and don't immediately inhale, notice what's there when you exhale and leave that gap for a moment. There's a gap where there's an emptiness. And it's difficult to stay there long because there's a feeling of really needing to then fill up, right? So that's one of the gaps. And then the fourth last part is that when we inhale, now the lungs are full. It's the opposite of before when they're empty, but it's a gap. They're full, and there's no movement. Actually, snipers in the US military have been learning yoga breathing practices in order to learn how to shoot at the moments when there's no movement in the body from the inhale or exhalation, which of course is in many ways a kind of, I think, distorted use of these practices. But nevertheless, there's a lack of movement in those gaps. Either an emptiness at the end of the exhale or a fullness when we're full and there's no movement until again we need to release and push out. So these are the four basic parts. And there are qualities and emotions that tend to be associated with these different parts. And they're all metaphors for how we experience our life, because to be alive means we have to take in and release. It's a constant process. All life forms, all organisms do this in some way. Okay, so the practice that Reb Zalman found says that the inhalation, if you listen to the sound of it, if you make a bit of an aspirant, a little bit of a closing in your throat, and like a Darth Vader sound called Ujjayi breath in yogas, and you can hear that sound. It sounds even like the sound of the letter Hey. When you inhale, and when you exhale. That they're the two Heys in Yud Hey Vav Hey. And then it says that when we're in that gap of emptiness, when we've let all the air out, the lungs are compressed, that's Yud. That's the symbol of the emptiness of Yud, which is associated with Ayin, with nothingness, emptiness, Atzilut, the upper of the four worlds. And then it starts all over again. We have to breathe in. It's the upper Hey. And then when we're full of air and we're in that gap, it's the long Vav, the long Vav letter. Yud, empty, Hey, breathing in, Vav, full. And then again, there's that final lower Hey, breathing out. You might imagine that gap, that emptiness, then there's some kind of circular hook that goes back up to start the name again, because you end on the lower Hey, if you have a vertical sense, and then to get back up to the Yud at the top, it's kind of rounded circle back to the Yud, and Hey, and Vav, and Hey. And some of you may also know that another way that these teachings in Kabbalah have been applied in Jewish renewal to the body, in this case I'm showing a version of it being on the breath, but you can also at the same time pay attention to the four parts of the body while you're doing this breathing practice that are also associated with Yud Hey Vav Hey. The head is the little Yud, and the shoulder girdle, the frame of the shoulders and the arms are like the upper Hey. And the torso, the midsection or the central column of the spine of the body is the long Vav. And then the waist and the hips and the legs create the lower Hey. So I like to do these two together. I just feel my head and the frame of my neck and shoulders and my torso and then my hips and my legs pretty much the whole time. I hold those in awareness. And then when I'm on each place of the breath, when I'm on emptiness, when there's no air in my lungs, I'm also mostly, though, a little more zoomed in on the sense of the sensations of my head, my awareness of my head. And then the inhalation, I'm aware here, the upper Hey. And then when I'm full, I'm aware here of the central column. And then when I exhale, I'm aware of my hips and legs and let it all down into the earth. And then takes me right back up. I'm in that gap of Yud, emptiness. And again, continues down. So because we're not didactic, I'm not going to ask if there's any questions, but I'll just leave it at that and we can practice with it as we will here. And pay attention to the different qualities in each of those four locations. Retain the breath a little bit in each spot. Slow down the inhale a bit so you can pay attention to the beginning of it, the middle of it, and the end. And then stay in the gap of fullness a bit, the Vav. And then when you go to let go and push out, pay attention to the beginning, middle, and end of the out breath. And then when you get to the emptiness, retain that space for a moment and feel the qualities of it. Notice the feeling of needing to breathe. And there can become anxiety or even panic. So if it gets difficult at all, then you can just let the practice go and just sit with the yud, hey, vav, and the hey of your body and let the breath practice go. Okay. At the end of this teaching, there's a piece that I'll just say at the end, which Gikatilia adds. So let's begin. Exhaling is the lower hay. That takes us into emptiness, the yud. And then inhaling, upper hay. Full, the vav. Exhaling, the lower hay. The hips and the legs. Nothingness, the yud. The gap. Inhaling, upper hay, shoulders and arms. Full vav, midsection, torso. Center of the body. Exhaling, lower hay, hips and legs. Emptiness, yud, the head. Emanating down. Inhale, upper hay. Full, middle of the body. Exhale, lower hay, waist, legs, the world of Asiya, the physical material world, dissolves into nothingness. Yud, the head, Atzilut. Inhale, hay, upper hay, shoulders, arms, the world of Bria. Full, middle of the body, Vav, world of Yetzirah. Exhale, legs and hips, lower hay. Let's see if we can let go of any manipulation of the breath now and just let the breath naturally be slow and slightly retained in the gaps without having to effort too much. One of the beauties of meditation is that we can practice how to be present and attentive, but not smothering or interfering too much, which translates over to how we are in relationships. So almost like we're spying on the breath. It's like walking in a room, and can we do that with receptivity to what's already happening in the culture of the room versus coming in and imposing something and starting to change something. Trying to let the breath be natural, even though we're present. The breath is part of the nervous system that is involuntary, and yet it has this quality where you can also get voluntarily involved with it. And then as soon as you're done, it will keep going involuntarily. And meditation can also show that thoughts are like that. You can sit and watch thoughts like you're in a theater or a presentation without getting involved and being the one who's doing the thinking. And this actually makes us better thinkers, because we're less in the way. So let's watch these different micro territories within each of the 4 parts. The beginning of the emptiness of Yud, empty lungs, can feel so relaxing. Everything's let go, there's nothing to do. But soon it changes. And we have to do something. We need to take an in-breath. And then that feels so good and needed. And at the beginning of the fullness of Vav, the lungs full of air, feels so good too. There's nothing to do. We have everything we need. We've gathered it in. We've gone to the grocery store. We've got the house stocked full. Or we've got the meal ready to go. It's a full plate. But soon it changes. And we have to push it out. And then that feels really good. Exactly what was needed. Rabbi Arthur Waska also says that the reason this name Yod He Vav He is the Tetragrammaton, it's unpronounceable, is because it's really the sound of not just He when we're breathing in, that aspirant sound, and when we're breathing out, but it's the sound of Yah. So it's this beautiful chant without talking. It's a non-vocal breathing chant where you're always, as long as you're alive, we are have a mantra of God's name, Yah. The breath is always singing the Yah, praising. And he says, where we say, Nishmat Chochai, Tevarech et Shimcha, Adonai Eloheinu. That all breathing life praises your name. All creatures praise when birds sing. But he says also it's every breath, all breathing life. Every breath we take is praising your name. The inhalation, Yah. The exhalation, Yah. And finally, Reb Zalman brought from Gikatilia's text that he said that when you practice in this way, this practice with the 4 parts of the breath, with Yod He Vav He, that over time it will reveal the true nature of the body as a body of light. So that's the fruition of the practice. Let's do one more. Consciously, the emptiness of Yod, the head. The inhalation, upper hay, shoulders and arms. The center column of the body, the Vav. And letting it all go into the earth. Lower hay, legs and hips. Thank you for practicing, everyone. I hope you find that practice helpful and beautiful, like I do. Maybe we can have some music here we could try, Anna. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, everyone. Shavua tov.